Hey, here's a great question from Anson My Eyes Jones. He says, any good stories from the brief time in Global? How was working with Ian and Axel? What was your first time like meeting Terry Gordy? Early Global was a big part of my fandom, and it's fascinating to see how much talent was there. I kind of forgot that Ian and Axel Rotten were there.
They live right by me in Duncombe. And when I say Duncombe, it's Duncombe Jr., obviously, not Mr. Duncombe and Bobby. And they live right by us. And we had an apartment. We always joked about they check you for weapons when you went in. If you didn't have one, they gave you one because it was rough in there. We lived past the freaking hood. Murdoch goes, I ain't coming down there. I need a freaking gun to get to your apartment. It's all we could afford. And Ian and Axel lived just right down the same apartment complex from us, just right down there. Good guys, just trying to make it like me and Bobby were. We had a lot of fun. I mean, Global was awesome, man. You had some incredible talent. When I was there, I still got to work with the Von Erichs and the Freebirds. Now, years past their rivalry, but they were still drawing houses. And back then, drawing was different than what it was during the heyday of the Von Erichs. Basically, we're giving away everything for free and making money off concessions. Literally, that's what it was. You had to pay for parking, and you had to pay for concessions. So they're giving tickets away for free. So we're sold out all the time when we had a good show, but people weren't paying, but they had to pay in different ways.
You didn't run into Bruce at all in Global, though, right? Y'all just missed each other.
Nope. I sent you that boxing match. It's the worst match in the history of wrestling that he did with James Beard. But
we got to watch that one day here on YouTube.
Oh, my God. We got to watch that. Gerald Briscoe, I think, has watched it 20 times.
It's outstanding. We'll push a link out through social.
It was great in Global. I grew up as a Global fan, not a Global fan, Sportatorium fan. And so these were still the same guys that I watched growing up. Bill Irwin was there. Johnny Mantell was there. The Von Erichs were there. The Freebirds were coming in. Akbar was there. I got to room with Gary Hart on the road. I mean, it was so cool to be around these guys that had drawn so much money in Texas and were still there. And it was a good place. My first night, I went out with Manny Fernandez and Butch Reed till about 4:00 in the morning. I thought, oh my God, it's not like they're going to scare me. I'd been pretty wild in my football days as well. So it wasn't, those guys were a different level. It was one point Manny who threw a guy through a window in our local bar there, and I think it was Garland, somewhere in Dallas, Texas, threw a guy through a window. Manny was wild. And then him and Butch, not that night, it was a different night. At the end of the night, they cut us off, and Manny just grabs the beer mugs and just throws them over his head and hits a bunch of people. And it's just, I thought this is quite strange. I think I'm going to do well
here. He's looking for a fight to throw him over his head.
100% he's looking for a fight. Manny loved to fight. I mean, loved to fight. He was good at it. He was good at it.
Jay, cold_insomnia on Twitter says 3 current wrestlers from any company today that JBL would love to have had a feud with during his time. When you think about, when you're in your wrestler prime, if you will, and you had a time machine and you could mix it up with somebody you see out there today, who would be on that short list, John?
Short list, Cody Rhodes, no doubt about it. He's the guy. He's the face of the company, but also the size difference. I worked really well with guys that I had a size advantage to. I understood that very well. Also worked, I thought, pretty well with guys that I had a size advantage with where they were much bigger, which there's not a lot of people. I was 6'6", about 280. So, I was one of the bigger guys, but, you had Big Show, you had Undertaker and Kane. You had some guys like that, that I really enjoyed working with. But Cody Rhodes, I mean, that would be so fun. I think so much of Cody. I love Cody since the JBL and Cole show. And I think it'd be a lot of fun to work with Cody. I tell you, the other guys I work with, I would love to work with Jacob Fatu.
Oh, yes.
That kid is a kid. He's a grown man. He's awesome. My God, that'd be so much fun to work with a guy like that who could do so much stuff. I mean, that would be a blast. I mean, that would be so much fun to do. And the other guy, you mentioned 3 people. The other guy, Dolph, Nick. I mean, Dolph I've never seen Dolph had a bad match. And I saw him have matches with Del Rio, and my style in Del Rio was similar. Del Rio's better than me, but the style is similar. And I see how that style works. There's just an old simple style when a heel is bigger and can beat up the baby face, and that baby face works from underneath. And Dolph has such incredible fire and is so talented. I think we could really have some good matches.
That brings up an interesting question. Nick wants to know, was there a style of wrestling or a wrestler that you enjoyed working with the most? I've heard a story about Lesnar really enjoying smaller / super athletic types like AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson. Is that the same for you, or do you prefer a different style?
No, I styles work, and I worked some with Brock. I'd love to have worked a program with Brock. Just didn't work out. When I had my run, Brock was off, winning a UFC championship. So it never worked out. Then I retired and did commentary. But, man, it would be so much fun to work with Brock. He's so freaking talented. And he's safe because he's so freaking strong. I loved working with Mark Henry. I had a decent time with Jeep Swenson back in the day. It was fun for me to work with the big guys because it was something completely out of my norm. Normally I was a much bigger guy, but it was so much fun being that guy that could sell guys. I've always thought, man, I'd love to have worked with San Martino. That would have been awesome, man, to work with that big, tough guy. I'd love to work with Magnum TA. That's my dream match of all time. Big, tough guy like that could work. I loved those guys like that. And then I also liked the other way, the Rey Mysterios.
Okay.
You had to make them work from underneath. And guys that had a lot of fire like Ray, man, it was just heaven being out there with those guys.
But you do prefer working as a heel?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't know the question was just about
No, it wasn't. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to be working a smaller guy, it's always you're the heel. And
I was a terrible baby face. So yeah, I was horrible. I don't know if I was any good as a heel, but I was terrible as a baby face.
What a great line. Smokey wants to know, who has the best lariat in the business currently, outside of JBL himself, of course.
That's interesting. I've seen, Raquel has a pretty good clothesline that I've seen. I saw the old school guy in OVW. I can't think of his name, with the mustache and the real good throwback. It's interesting. I've tried to teach the clothesline that I have to people. It's never worked. I took Luke Harper aside and tried to teach it to him. And I think I know how to explain it, but obviously I don't, because I couldn't teach it. I showed Baron how to do it, and Baron's a really smart guy and an athletic guy. So is Luke Harper. And I never could explain to people how to do it. And I don't know why I can't. I feel like I can tell you exactly how I do it, but I've never been able to give it to somebody to do it. And I learned it in Japan over a 4 or 5 week tour from Kendo Nagasaki, because when I went over there, I was basically using the Barry Windham lariat, because Gary Hart had done me a favor and said I was Barry Windham's cousin, because I'm from Sweetwater, and Mulligan claimed he was from Sweetwater. Always hated that, because I didn't want to pretend I was Windham's cousin. I always wonder if I had heat, which Barry had never even heard of it. But because of the look of Barry Windham, I used the lariat. And so when I got over to Japan, Kendall said, you don't do it very well. And so every day I would do it different. Every night I would do it different. And Kendall worked with me over a 5 week tour, and I developed it over 5 weeks and developed something pretty unique. But I've never been able to teach it. And by the way, you had a question about Gordy earlier. Gordy's where I got the clothesline. Okay. Terry Gordy threw the clothesline almost exactly like I throw it. I throw it like he throws it. In fact, I was working with Gordy one time, and I thought, this son of a bitch is stealing all my stuff. And I'm sitting there thinking he's doing all my moves. I'd forgotten that I'd stolen it from him so long before. I'm literally getting hot at Gordy because he stole my stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm right here. I'm right here.
So great.